I didn't think much of it when he first brought it up, the dream. It was just one of those casual late-night conversations, the kind that happen when the world is quiet and it's just the two of you, lights dimmed, and sleep still hours away. We were at his place, on the couch, some movie we weren't watching playing in the background. He was scrolling through his phone, and I was halfway through telling him a story about some guy I matched with. I remember he wasn't really paying attention, which wasn't unusual, not because he didn't care, but because that's how it always was between us. Comfortable. Easy. Then he said it, out of nowhere. I had a dream about you last night. I paused, halfway into my sentence. What kind of dream? He smirked, and for a second, I thought he was about to make a joke. He always teased me, especially when it came to guys. But then he looked down at his phone and said, quieter, it was weird. Like, not bad weird, just different. That got my attention. Different how? He took a while to answer, and I could feel the air in the room shift, like something was tightening, stretching thin. I don't remember all of it, he finally said, but you kissed me. Or I kissed you. I don't know. We were just close. He said it like he was still trying to figure out what it meant. Like saying it out loud might help him process it. He didn't look at me right away, and I wasn't sure if I should laugh or say something serious. Part of me wanted to play it off, brush it away like it meant nothing. But the truth was, it didn't feel like nothing. Not to me. Not with him.
I've been in love with my best friend for a long time. That kind of slow-burning, aching kind of love. The kind you bury deep because you're terrified of what might happen if you let it out into the light. He's straight. At least that's what he's always said. Always been with girls. Always talked about girls. But there were moments, small ones, where I'd catch him looking at me too long. Or moments when his touch lingered just a second past the point of casual. I never let myself hope. Not really. I couldn't afford to. So when he said he had a dream about me, a dream where we kissed, something inside me lit up, even as I tried to smother it. What did you feel? I asked, surprising even myself. He looked at me then. Really looked. His eyes were softer than usual, unsure. I don't know, he said. It felt good? But when I woke up, I was confused. Couldn't stop thinking about it. I didn't know what to say to that. My heart was pounding so hard I was afraid he'd hear it. We didn't talk much after that. Just kind of sat there, the space between us suddenly too loud with everything unspoken. Eventually, he went to bed, and I went home. But everything felt different, like the axis had shifted, and I wasn't sure which way was up anymore. The next day, he texted me like nothing had happened, and I played along. That's what we do, isn't it? We pretend. We keep the peace. We don't rock the boat. Especially not when we've spent years building something we're terrified to lose. But I couldn't stop thinking about it either. About what it meant. About what it could mean. Was it just a dream? Or was it something more? I started noticing the little things more. How his leg would brush against mine when we sat together. How he started texting me good night more often. How he'd ask if I wanted to come over when he clearly didn't need anything from me. And there were the silences. Longer. Heavier. We'd always been close. But now there was this undercurrent of something else. Something neither of us had the words for. And I didn't know how to ask him if he felt it too. Because if he didn't, if this really was just a one-off dream, some random firing of neurons that meant nothing, then I was risking everything for a fantasy. But if he did feel it, then what? What would we become? Could we survive that kind of change? One night, a week after he told me about the dream, we ended up back at his place again. Just like always. We ordered pizza, drank some beer, watched a movie we'd both seen 100 times. He was quieter than usual, and I could feel him watching me. When the movie ended, he didn't get up to turn the TV off. He just looked at me and said, "Do you ever think about it?" About what? I asked, even though I knew exactly what he meant. Us, like, if things were different. I didn't answer right away. Couldn't. My mouth had gone dry. Sometimes, I said finally. Yeah, I think about it. He nodded. Slowly, like he was bracing himself for something. I haven't stopped thinking about that dream, he said. And I don't know what it means. But I feel like something's changing. And I don't know what to do with that. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until I let it out. I think it's okay to not know, I told him. We don't have to figure it out tonight. He looked at me for a long time. Then he leaned in, just enough that I could feel the warmth of his breath. I don't want to mess this up, he whispered. Then don't, I whispered back. And then, for the briefest moment, the world went quiet, and his lips touched mine. It was soft.
Tentative.
Like a question. But I kissed him back like an answer I'd been waiting years to give. And nothing, felt the same after that. The next morning wasn't what I expected. I woke up on his couch, blanket half draped over me, the soft glow of early sunlight filtering through his curtains. He was in the kitchen, humming to himself, pouring coffee like everything was normal. And for a second, I wondered if I had dreamed it. If that kiss, that long-awaited, heart-thudding kiss, had only happened in my head. But then he looked over his shoulder, caught me watching him, and gave me a smile that didn't look like the ones he used to give me. It was softer, almost shy. He brought me a mug and sat beside me without a word. We both sipped, quiet, the silence not quite awkward, but not comfortable either. I don't regret it, he said eventually. I nodded. Me neither. He looked relieved at first. But then his brow furrowed, and he stared down at his cup like he was trying to read tea leaves in the swirls of steam. But I don't know what it means. For us. There it was, the uncertainty I'd been trying not to drown in. We had stepped off the edge of something last night, and now we were free-falling, hoping there was something solid waiting to catch us. You don't have to know everything right now, I said, echoing my own words from the night before. We can just be honest about how we feel, about what we want. He glanced at me again. And what do you want? I hesitated. It was one thing to feel something, another to say it out loud, to give it shape and weight. I want to be close to you, I said, not just as your best friend. But I also don't want to push you into anything you're not ready for. He didn't speak for a moment, just reached over and squeezed my hand. Last night it felt real, like something clicked. His voice was quiet, uncertain, but not afraid. I don't know if I'm gay, or bi, or whatever. I don't even care about labels right now. But I know I felt something when I kissed you. And I've been thinking about you in ways I don't think I've admitted to myself before. My throat tightened. Hearing those words, really hearing them, felt like years of silence cracking open all at once. It's okay to take it slow, I said. He nodded. I want to. With you. We didn't make some grand plan. We didn't put a label on it. We just existed in that moment. Two best friends, shifting into something new, something fragile and unexplored. But things didn't stay simple for long. The next week, things between us became this delicate dance. One night we'd be almost normal, playing video games or going out for burgers. The next, I'd catch him looking at me across the room like he was memorizing me. He'd sit closer, touch my arm more, smile at me like he was learning a new language, one made of glances and half-spoken truths. He hadn't told anyone else, and I hadn't pushed him to. But that came with its own weight. We were existing in this bubble, this quiet little world we'd built just for us. And I could feel it every time we were around his friends or out in public. The distance he put between us, the way his hand would twitch like he almost wanted to reach for mine, then stopped himself. I tried to be patient. I knew this wasn't easy for him. He was navigating parts of himself he'd never explored, and that was terrifying. I knew because I'd done it. And I had years of practice pretending not to care. But now that I had tasted something more, had felt him choose me even for just a night, it was harder to pretend. And then one night, everything boiled over. We were at a party, one of those casual house things his friend from work was throwing. Beer pong, bad music. Too many people crammed into too small a space. I hadn't wanted to go, but he said it might be fun, and I didn't want to be the reason he stayed home. First, it was okay. He stayed close to me, introduced me to a couple people, even laughed at my terrible joke about one guy's shirt. But then he drifted, got pulled into a circle of friends I didn't know. And I saw it, the way he reverted, the way he performed the version of himself he'd always shown to the world. He didn't look at me the same way, didn't touch me once. And then, I don't know what came over me, but I just left, couldn't breathe. I walked out the front door and stood on the porch, the cold air biting at my skin, trying to remember how it felt to be okay pretending again. He found me a few minutes later. "Why'd you leave?" he asked. I looked at him, and something inside me cracked. "Because I felt invisible." His face dropped. "I wasn't trying to ignore you." "I know," I said, "but it still felt like you did. And maybe I shouldn't have expected anything else. Maybe this was just a one-time thing for you, a phase or a confusion or whatever. But it's not that for me. I can't keep doing this halfway." He stood there, quiet. Hurt flickered across his face, followed by guilt. "I'm scared," he admitted. "I don't know how to be this out loud." "I'm not asking you to come out," I said. "I'm asking you to be honest. With me. With yourself." He stepped closer, eyes shining with something I couldn't read. "I am being honest. Care about you. So much it messes with my head. And that dream, that kiss, it wasn't just a dream. It was a wake-up call. But this is all new to me, and I'm trying. Can't you see that?" I nodded, voice trembling. "I do. I just don't want to lose myself waiting for you to decide if you can love me out loud." The silence stretched, and then he did something I didn't expect. He reached for my hand, in the middle of the porch where anyone could see, and held it. Firm, warm, real. "I don't have all the answers," he said, "but I don't want to lose you either." And somehow that was enough. For now. We didn't talk much the rest of that night. After he took my hand on the porch, we stood there in silence for a while, our fingers loosely entwined, the party noise muffled behind us. He didn't let go, and neither did I. The gesture said what words couldn't. "I'm here. I'm trying." Later, we went back to his place. He didn't try to kiss me again. I didn't push. We just laid on his bed, side by side, eyes on the ceiling, shoulders brushing. There was something calming about the quiet honesty between us. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't sexual. It was just real. Two people trying to navigate the messy space between friendship and something more, without a map. I knew things wouldn't be easy. I'd always known. But what I didn't expect was how lonely that space would feel. How much I'd ache for clarity. For him to choose me fully, not just in private moments, but when it counted. Because what started as a moment, a kiss born from a dream, had become something I carried with me every day. Every smile he gave me. Every time he texted me just to say he was thinking about me. Every time he brushed his hand against mine and didn't pull away. It meant something, and that meant the uncertainty hurt more. There were days it felt like we were growing closer, like he was letting the wall between us crumble, brick by brick. He'd invite me over just to hang out. But then we'd end up tangled together on the couch, his arm around me, my head on his chest. He'd run his fingers through my hair, slow and absent, like it was the most natural thing in the world. And in those moments, I believed it. I believed we could make this work. But then there were days he pulled back, didn't text, avoided eye contact, acted like nothing had changed between us. And I couldn't help but wonder if he regretted it all. Came to a head one night after we went out for drinks. Nothing crazy, just the two of us, catching up after a long week, sitting in our usual booth at the quiet bar down the street. I had a couple beers, he had one. We were laughing at something stupid when I noticed him staring at me. Not just looking, staring, like he was searching for something. "What?" I asked, smiling. He shook his head. "Nothing. Just, you look happy tonight." "I am happy," I said. "With you." The words hung in the air, heavier than I expected. He looked down at his drink.
"I'm glad."
But there was something about his tone, the way he said it, like he didn't believe he deserved that happiness. I leaned in, careful. "You okay?" He hesitated. "I'm scared I'm going to mess this up." "You're not," I said. "You just have to be honest. That's all I've ever wanted." He nodded, then said something that caught me completely off guard. "Sometimes I wish I never had that dream." The words hit me like a slap. "Oh," I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. He looked up, panicked. "I didn't mean it like that. I mean things were easier before. When I didn't question everything. When I knew who I was, what I wanted." You were my best friend. That was simple. But now I feel like I'm standing at the edge of something I don't understand, and I'm terrified. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. You're not the only one who's scared. He looked at me, guilt flashing across his face. I didn't mean to hurt you. I know, I said. But that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. There it was again, the truth between us. Unavoidable, messy, real. I still think about that kiss every day, he said quietly. I still feel it. I just don't know what it makes me. I reached across the table and took his hand, not caring who saw. You don't have to be anything yet. You just have to be here. And he nodded, squeezed my hand. And for the first time, I saw the tears in his eyes. Not sadness, not regret, but fear. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of hope. After that night, things didn't magically fix themselves. There were still ups and downs. Days he seemed distant. Days he texted me good morning and good night like clockwork. He started opening up more, telling me about the pressure he felt. From his family, from his friends, from himself. How he was afraid of being judged, of losing people, of not understanding who he really was anymore. I listened. I didn't try to fix him. I just stayed. And slowly, piece by piece, he started letting me in. One night, weeks later, we were lying on his bed again. This time, I was on my side, facing him. He reached out, brushing a hand against my cheek. You know that dream I had? He asked. Yeah. I don't think it was just a dream. I didn't breathe. I think it was a part of me trying to tell the rest of me the truth, he continued. About how I feel. About you. And what's the truth? I asked. He leaned in closer this time.
No hesitación.
No fear. That I'm falling for you, he whispered. And then he kissed me again. But this time it didn't feel like a question. Felt like a beginning. We didn't say much after that kiss. We didn't need to. He curled into me, head resting against my chest, fingers loosely tangled in mine. The TV played in the background. Some old movie neither of us was watching, and the soft flicker of light danced across the walls. But everything felt still, like the world had narrowed down to the space between our bodies, to the quiet breath we shared. I held him like I'd always wanted to, like I didn't have to ask permission anymore. Felt like we had finally stepped into the same truth. In the days that followed, something shifted. Not just in how we were alone, but in how he was around me, in public, around friends, out in the world. He didn't make some big announcement. There wasn't a social media post or a dramatic declaration. But the subtle things changed. He stopped flinching when our arms brushed. He smiled longer, laughed more freely. He didn't push me away when I stood too close, and when I reached for his hand, he didn't pull back. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments of hesitation. Moments when he'd catch himself and stiffen like a reflex he couldn't unlearn. But the difference was he noticed, and he tried again. I watched him in awe, honestly. He was wrestling with everything. Identity, fear, masculinity, history. All of it colliding at once. And still, he chose me, even when it was hard. One night, after a long drive back from the coast, a spontaneous trip we took because he said he wanted to get away, we ended up parked outside his apartment, headlights off, the engine cooling beneath us. We sat there in silence, the weight of the night hanging between us. I used to think I knew exactly who I was, he said, staring out the windshield. That I had everything figured out. Girls, football, the right kind of jokes, the right kind of friends. All of it. He turned to me, eyes tired but open. But then you came into my life and started making me feel different, safer, like I didn't have to perform all the time. My throat tightened. And when I had that dream, it scared the hell out of me, because it felt real. And real meant I couldn't pretend anymore. I reached for his hand across the console. You never had to pretend with me. I know that now, he whispered. But I didn't know it then. I squeezed his fingers gently. He looked down at our joined hands. Do you ever worry this will all fall apart? All the time, I said. But I'd rather risk it than keep pretending this doesn't mean something. He nodded, quiet. Me too. And that's when I realized this was what love looked like for him. Not grand gestures or perfect words, but showing up again and again through the fear, choosing me through the confusion, holding my hand when it trembled. The next weekend, we went to a friend's birthday party together. A small backyard gathering, mostly people we both knew. And at one point, someone jokingly asked him, "Hey, is that your boyfriend now?" Gesturing toward me with a laugh. My stomach dropped. I braced myself, expecting him to laugh it off or dodge the question. But he didn't. He looked at me, then back at the guy and said simply, "Yeah, he is." And then he smiled like it was the most obvious thing in the world. I think I stopped breathing for a second. It was the smallest moment. But for me, for us, it meant everything. After that night, things got easier. Not simple, but easier. We started spending weekends together like it was natural. Grocery shopping, movie marathons, falling asleep in each other's arms without needing to hide it. He even introduced me to his sister, not as his friend, but as someone who mattered to him. She hugged me when we met and whispered, "Took him long enough." With a knowing smile, we still had conversations, hard ones, about fear, about the past, about what we were building, but we had them together, and that made all the difference. There were still things he was figuring out, who he was, what he wanted the world to see, but now he didn't have to do it alone, and neither did I. I never thought a dream would change everything, but it did. Not because of what it showed him, but because it cracked something open. It gave him a glimpse of what was possible if he stopped hiding, if he leaned into the feeling instead of running from it. That dream was the beginning, and this us was what came after. It wasn't always easy, but it was real, and it was ours.